Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's small business webinar. My name is Paul LaChapelle. I'm with Montana State University Extension, and very happy to welcome you all today. I'd just like to remind you that we are recording today's webinar. It will be posted on our respective websites, and I'll be sending out a notice when that recording is available on our small business listserv. Um, we do have 4 questions we'd like you to fill out in the next minute or so before we start the webinar. If you could just fill those out right now, we'll give you another minute to do that while I'm talking about our sponsors. Today's webinar is sponsored by the Small Business Development Centers, made up of the Montana Department of Commerce and the U.S. Small Business Administration. Our additional sponsors, the Montana Economic Developers Association, Montana State University Extension, with additional support from the Great Falls Development Authority. If you do have any technical questions or need any technical support, I have posted an email address and a phone number in the welcome chat below. Feel free to call or email if you have any questions at all about how this technology works. We also, I'll direct you to our website where we contain information. We've gathered information about past webinars and future webinars, and as well as additional information, handouts, etc., from our webinar speakers, and that's at the msucommunitydevelopment.org website below. We do encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar, and Charla will be happy to answer those as they come up. If she doesn't see them, then I'll interrupt her and we'll read the question. It's a similar chat pod as what you see there in the bottom left of your screen. So with that, I am going to introduce Charla. Charla Merja is the Educational Partnership Coordinator with Great Falls College in Great Falls. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Charla. Charla, it's all yours. Take it away.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Just wanted to let you know we're going to talk about some real basics about hiring, but I think when we get in a hurry to make a hire, sometimes we overlook these things and they can cause us some problems in the end. So to get started, a little bit about me. I've worked here at the college for about 5 years. I've worked K-12 education in the business office. I've also run my own business and um, managed a farm co-op for a period of time and done quite a bit of hiring and made quite a few mistakes. So hopefully I can share with you some of the lessons I've learned over the years and help you avoid those as, as the time comes. So the things we wanted, I said I would cover today: why your company culture should be a factor in your employee search, the best questions to ask during interviews, best practices in the hiring process, and also some takeaways that you can implement now. So company culture.
Charla, let me just interrupt. I'm sorry, real quick. Sounds like a couple of folks can't hear quite too well. I'm wondering if you might be able to speak up just a little bit. And I'm also going to see if I can increase your volume. So.
Okay, and I turned my mic up. Does that help? Can you guys hear now?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Much better. Yep.
So basically, I can back up a minute. You saw the previous slide. These are the things that I said that I would cover today's presentation, and I have worked in private industry. I've owned a business. I've worked for a K-12 school district and also worked here at Great Falls College for 5 years, and made some hiring mistakes over the years, and wanted to share some of the lessons I've learned and help you to avoid making some of the same mistakes. So why do we make bad hires? My experience has been that we want to fill the position quickly. As a manager of a location, you want to get that position filled, so hopefully you don't have to backfill those jobs with your own time. You didn't verify the employee's skills. and maybe they just weren't a good fit. So when we do make bad hires or can't find the right person, it costs our business lost productivity, lost time. It affects the morale of our employees. And if you're also working, say in a business with customer service, if you have a lot of turnover and things like that, that may affect the customers that are coming into your business. So company culture, I got some things on here that I took from Forbes, but can you articulate what your company culture is? Can your employees articulate what it is? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? What things do your employees need to be successful? And there's the iceberg picture. I love this because there's things that are observable as far as our culture, and there's things that aren't observable. So we need to keep those things in mind. And when we make hires, make sure that the people that we want, that we're hiring, that want to work for us, fit our culture to some extent. Because somebody who wants to work there and agrees with your company culture, they're more engaged, they're easier to retain. They're happier, they have better job satisfaction, and a lot of people will will go to work for somebody who has a good work environment, has a good company culture, and they'll take that over, say, more money. If they're happy where they're working, they're more apt to stay. So when you look at your culture, it could be your leadership, how you manage, how you communicate, the work-life balance that seems to be really important right now, especially to some of our younger generation, value and respect. But keep those things in mind when you start looking for employees and identifying what you're looking for, and make sure that you know what your culture is, because if it's not a good culture, people will pick up on that for sure. So when you start hiring, interviewing, looking for people, we all seem to ask a lot of the same questions, but it's getting to the point where we want to know more about how they communicate. If your business is team-oriented, can that person work on a team? How do they resolve conflict? A question here is describe how you handle the conflict with one of your coworkers. Tell me about a time you made a mistake. How did you address it and what did you learn? So do they take responsibility for mistakes? Are they willing to move forward from that? What kind of a culture do you thrive in? I mean, does their idea of a company culture match yours? Do they know what your company culture is? Can they tell you about your company when you're interviewing them? Do they recognize, say, successes that they've had? What values are you drawn to, and what's your ideal workplace? That if you want somebody to come work for your company and their ideal workplace isn't what your company is, you want to know that up front. And do they know what your culture is based on what they've seen, what they've read? Have they researched your company? Find out what their goals, their career path are, things like that. It's critical that the people that we're interviewing, that we're hiring, are going to be a good fit for our company and have the skills that they need to come to work for us. Some of the things that we do here at the college, we provide a tour of the institution while we're going through the interview process, and it's a good way to get in, to talk to that person outside of an interview situation, and then introduce them to some people if you want to, and then ask them questions about the tour. What did they see? What did they recognize? Is this someplace you'd like to work? A lot of people will come and they won't know much about your business. You sit in a room and you interview them. So how can you kind of show them what your business is about, and then ask them questions about if this is a good fit? And then when you talk about a good fit with somebody, you need diversity in your company. You need to make sure that the skills and their attributes match what you're looking for. And we all would want people who are problem solvers. It's nice to have people that can look at a job that needs to be done and go do it rather than just expect that somebody else is going to take care of it. We want a lot of times some creativity depending on what our work environment is. Are they willing to come up with new ways of doing things, think outside the box? And also, some people will say that hire somebody that's better than you. Hire somebody that could be your boss someday. And if you're the owner of a company, obviously that's not going to be the case. But if somebody is as good as you are, then they've got the skills that you're looking for, and probably will be successful. They may move on, but they'll be there for a period of time and will help grow your business in the meantime. During the interview, once again, like I said, these are simple things, basic things that I think that a lot of times we get in a hurry and we forget to take into consideration. But when you ask those open-ended questions, you want them to tell a story. Sometimes, tell me about yourself, or what's your greatest strength, what's your greatest weakness. Listen to their voice. When you ask them questions about coming to work for your business, are they enthusiastic? Can you feel their excitement about coming to work there? When I've interviewed places, if I really want to work there, I'm excited about it. I'm nervous, I'm scared, but at the same time, you ask good questions, you make eye contact with the people that are interviewing you, and when you ask them situational questions about when you made a mistake, how did you address it? What did you learn? Did they do the right thing? Did they own up to it? Did they fix it? Whether it's on the job, in their personal life, those kinds of things. When you start asking those questions, make sure that they did what you would like them to do in your situation. Also, at the end of an interview, we want them to ask questions of us. So when you get done, do you have any questions for us? Pay attention to what questions they're asking you as well about the company. Do they jump right to, well, how much money am I going to make, or do they ask more about the culture and maybe situational things? I asked a question here when I was hired about what's a typical day for this job, and one of the people on the interview committee who'd held the position started laughing and told me that there was no day that was the same. They're all different. You do different things. You do things as they come up. So any kind of question that they can ask of you to kind of give you a better idea about them and how you think they'll work out with your company is always beneficial. Some best practices that I've used that in my research I did prior to this presentation and at other times, make sure that when you post a job that you have the specific competencies and skills that you are looking for, and make sure they're in the advertisement so that the people that apply hopefully will be able to, they'll know that ahead of time. You'll know what your specific, it's out there. And also when you're putting out job postings, where do you advertise? Are you reaching the right people? Make sure that you're researching where the people you're looking for are actually looking for jobs. I work for an irrigation district as well, and we post our jobs on Craigslist, which is a great place for us to find ditch riders and things like that, because that's where those guys are looking. They're not looking in the local newspaper. They're not looking on job search sites and things like that. So make sure that when you advertise that you're reaching the audience that you want to reach. Does your position require a college degree? Is it necessary? Can on-the-job training, things that they've learned over time, somebody who doesn't have a college degree but has 20 years experience in the field, is that college degree really relevant, or are the skills that they've acquired working over the years, do those fulfill that requirement? Do they provide you what you need? And if a job requires a specific skill, say Microsoft Office, money handling, anything like that, make sure you test for those skills early in the process. One of the worst things that can happen is you say advertise for a cook, and they'll give you this great resume, you check their references all say, yeah, they can cook, and you put them on a grill and they can't cook. So test for those skills earlier in the process so that you know whether or not they have them. They can tell you in a resume cover letter that they have Microsoft Office, that they can count money, they can do all those things. But if you don't test them, and it's a critical specific skill that you want them to have, then you run into problems with hiring somebody who doesn't have the necessary skills required to do the job, and then you start all over again, and that affects employee morale, like I said, and things like that. When interviewing, if possible, it's always nice to have more than one person do the interview and sit in the interview room with you. You get a different perspective. You may see something that they don't see, or vice versa, and so it's always nice to be able to have a conversation when you're done interviewing people about what was good, what was bad, and figure out, are they a good fit? And it may take, you may bring them in and you may do a first interview, and maybe you test a skill, something like that, and then you narrow your pool down if you have a pool, hopefully, and then maybe bring somebody back for another interview so that you know that they're the right one for you. Maybe there's 2 or 3 that are really close in skill level, and they came through, they shined in their interview, so bring them back again, and maybe do something situational, ask them different questions, things like that, to narrow that down to the one right person that you need for your position. And try and plan ahead, and don't rush into a hire. The worst thing I've done in the past is thought that I found the right person and hired him, and come to find out that they didn't have the skill, or they just weren't the right person for the job. They didn't have good customer service skills, those kinds of things. So make sure that you're hiring the person that you really feel is the best out of the pool of people that you have. What can you start doing today to make sure that the next time you have a job opening that you hopefully have everything ready to go? I would say make sure that you've defined the skills and competencies for the positions that you have, and have those either in a job description, have a mock job posting done up, something like that, so that when that position opens up, you're ready to roll as far as advertising that, and you're not wasting time trying to get that stuff together. So identify your jobs with your high turnover, and make sure that you look at your postings and your hiring practices. I really strongly recommend an employee onboarding process. Those are really critical to making your new employees feel welcome. You can give clear expectations during that onboarding process, get all of their hiring paperwork done, introduce them around the company, and really set them up for success. We here at the college, we have a nice checklist that we go through, that we get their internet set up, we get their computer, email, all of those different things that you need the first day of work to get started and be successful. And you may say you have somebody who you hired, and you didn't quite, you started the training process but kind of let it slide, and then all of a sudden they're literally dissatisfied. Well, maybe take a step back and take a look at what was missing from that training process. My daughter did her student teaching. She was hired mid-year by a school district, so she finished her second semester. She started in the fall, and they all thought that, okay, she's been here for a couple years. She's been through the first of the year. She's done all the get your classroom set up and get everything ready for your students and everything. And she was really feeling frustrated. Well, when I talked to her, I found out that they just thought, well, she'd been here, and so they didn't go through the whole onboarding process that they would have done with a regular hire that was hired when the school year started. She was hired mid-year, so they kind of skipped a lot of things and just put her in a classroom, and there she went. So those are key to making an employee want to be there and be successful, and setting them up for success in that role. And I just can't stress enough that we know what the skills and competencies we want for positions, and those change over time. And so make sure that you're always keeping those updated so that when you start looking for people that you're getting exactly what you need and what you want, and somebody who hopefully will stay with you for a while and you don't have to keep going through the hiring process. Um, that's basically what I had to cover today. Do you guys have any questions for me? I know it's pretty basic, but like I said, a lot of times it's stuff that we forget over time. Paul put a question up for me as far as advantages and disadvantages of using a recruitment or employment agency like Help Wanted. I unfortunately have not had a lot of experience with using those. We have used, I've used job service and other jobs or other positions I've had, and it depends on who's out there and who's looking. At the college, we recruit all of our own unless we were to go into like a major search for a dean or something like that. So I really don't have that kind of information for you, sorry. Working interviews as far as having somebody actually do the job and demonstrate their ability, is that, Lindsay, is that what you're talking about? I think that, when I talk about evaluating their skills, and showing you how to do the job that you're having them do. They're going to be nervous, but I think that it's critical that, especially if you have specific skills that you're looking for. I gave the example of a cook. I would put somebody who I was hiring to be a cook in the kitchen and give them a menu item and ask them to cook it. You may lay out all the food there, but make sure they can do what you're asking them to do. If you wanted to be able to type letters and send emails and count cash, count down tills, ring somebody up, mock up something with customer service skills. But yeah, have them do the job that you're hiring them to do, because that way you know whether or not they are capable of doing it. If they say they know how to run a particular piece of equipment, have them put them on the equipment and see if they can actually run it. If I hire somebody who wants to be a ditch rider and they say I can run a backhoe or an excavator, then I want to know that they can do that. Are there any other questions?
Other questions for Charlotte? Looks like somebody's typing right now. Charlotte, can you provide your contact information in case folks want to get in touch with you down the road and ask you questions? And are you okay with folks getting in touch with you?
Sure. Do you want me just to put it in the chat box, or?
Perfect. Yep. And I see that maybe you can do that just after we finish up. Jody's just asking, what is your experience with reference checks? Are employers being forthcoming these days?
Some. It really depends on the business. My favorite thing to do when I was doing a lot of hiring was to ask previous managers or employers if they would hire that person again, and if they would, then that was a clear understanding that I probably would hire them. But at the same time, coming from a school district where we let people go for a variety of reasons, we gave very generic background checks on individuals because there was certain information that we couldn't divulge. I would much rather call an employer for a reference check than call the references typically that are listed on somebody's application, because I have friends that if you want to call them and ask them questions about me, they'll talk they'll tell you really good things about me, and they won't, maybe I'm not a great employee, and if you talk to an employer, that might be different. I have talked to employers who said, I wouldn't hire him again. If I had a job opening, no, I wouldn't hire him. So those are, from what I can tell, the employers I've talked to, yes, they are being forthcoming, but it also depends on the company, because some companies, their policy is that we tell you what day their start dates, their termination dates, and that's about the extent of what you'll get. Jason, I haven't had a whole lot of experience with the performance management or progressive discipline. I tend to progressive discipline for me is I give them some chances, and if they don't, then we end up letting them go. But there's previously when I've done that, I also work with them and hopefully an improvement plan or something like that. And if you don't get rid of bad employees, it does affect the employee morale of the company that you're working in. But I think each company hopefully will have their own discipline policies. Governmental agencies have a little bit different policies than a regular business. It's a whole lot easier with a regular business to get rid of somebody who's not doing their job and hire somebody new. But they do have a lot of progressive discipline in the school districts and here at the college and stuff like that. That's not one of my areas of expertise.
Other questions for Charla? Feel free to type them in the chat pod there. In the meantime, I am going to put up an evaluation link. We hope that you would fill out this evaluation. Let us know your thoughts on this webinar, the webinar series, and if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics or speakers. Charla, we're just coming up to the half hour. Any parting words from you? Any closing comments you'd like to make?
No. Well, I just hope that there was a little nugget there in my presentation for everybody to take and use toward their hiring process. And I wish everybody luck in hiring the right employees for their businesses.
Wonderful. Thank you, Charla, for a great presentation today, and thanks everybody for joining us. Again, you can see the website that we'll be posting, the archive. There's other information there about how to join the listserv and past information on past webinars. I'll just remind you that our last webinar of the spring will be May 3rd. Jody Smith will be joining us. She's the Workforce Training Director with Flathead Valley Community College, and the title of her presentation is 5 Critical Customer Service Skills. So with that, I want to thank you again. Charla, thank you for your time today, and everyone else for joining us. Have a great Thursday, and we hope to see you next month. Bye now.
Bye.